All right, thanks for being patient. I'm back on track. I just wanted to continue this video on a little bit and explain more about some fundamentals in the life. Which is the whole connection and control. So this is very real. As soon as you try to do things that are more like connection oriented, something's going to happen where you're going to have to lose control. And if you can't be open to that, things are going to screw up. Something's going to screw up. I'm not sure what it is. But for example, in my case, I'm not going to say what happened, but I ended up spending a lot more money than I should have. I'm not talking about that, if you know what I mean. But to me, it was like probably, I want to say, probably $2,000 in the last 2 months, more than it should have been. Actually, more like in the last 4 months, $2,000. Maybe 1,500 or something. Even though that doesn't seem like a lot, in my particular case, I mean, regardless, you're gonna lose control over something. So the money allows you to stay on track with things that you got to do, you know. And if you're not open to that, then it could also exponentially cause you to lose control. So an extreme example I would say is, let's say if Warren Buffett were to buy a bunch of boats or something, right? That's related to his connections and his, you know, that's like a social thing that he would do. But then he would lose control over that spending, like that money. It would necessarily lose control over what he's got. And again, if you're not open to that, then it's not a good idea. Then the whole idea of having connections is kind of null. You kind of have to sort of like just say no to connections, you know, if you need to have control. So for me, I'm at a point where that control is highly demanding, because I just bought, like, for example, $8,000 worth of cabinets, and that has to be financed. And I mean, I make enough to pay it off probably in 7 months, but that's the thing, because if you lose control, that ability is going to go down, and then you're going to lose more control and more control. And then to the point where now it's like, who are you? You know, you got to ask yourself, like, who are you? So unfortunately, I'm kind of at this point where connections have to be zero, pretty much. Even the friends that I made, I unfortunately have to say goodbye to them. Well, at least temporarily. And I hope they understand. Now, the exception is like work or school related connections. Those are a little bit different. But I'm talking about like kind of like life connections, you know, things that kind of make a difference in a general way. And I know it sounds weird to say that it costs money, but it does, you know, pretty much. I mean, it doesn't have to cost money, but for the most part, there is a financial part of it, which then causes you to lose control potentially. And so I started realizing this. I'm like, oh, no wonder why it seems like I'm on the cusp all the time when it comes to like, oh, well, should I go out or should I not? Should I stay in? And it's not even boredom. It's more like, what the fuck do I do? Because I want things to work out, like in my life in a positive way. And it's just crazy to realize, you know. But shit, do I go that way? I don't even know. Huh, might as well. So, I mean, this is might be a lesson for you as well, because you might be going through something And I would say an extreme example of this is if you somehow got in a situation where you're with a spouse and you have kids. That'd be an extreme situation where now all of a sudden all that control is gone. Like, it's been snipped. There's no way of getting it back. Now you'll have some control, but it's not nearly at the level that might be demanded, that your life might demand in what you want to do. You know, for example, passing the PE exam, probably. There's probably some control that you need to have, and perhaps this can explain why a lot of people can't pass it, which is kind of interesting to note. But there is that whole dichotomy, you know, the whole idea of having connection and having control. And I thought it was interesting that Arthur Arcturus actually was the first one to explain this who I saw. And yeah, so basically I'm going to declare from here on out, I know it's a Sunday, so it sounds like I'm bullshitting, but I'm being serious, that I'm not going to have connections. I'm not going to try to make any more connections, even if I get really bad at it. Probably would get bad at it, until I finish everything with my condo, until everything is done. So because until that is done, pretty much I'm gonna have that control lost. And it may not be recoverable to the level that would be required in different situations in my life. So it may not look like it, but what I want to do actually requires a high level of control that somebody else probably doesn't even have access to. Whereas I do have access to it because I don't have kids and I don't have a nagging wife. I don't even have a nagging girlfriend anymore. So I wanted to provide this insight for anybody who might be in my situation, 31 years old, maybe 21 years old, that's a little confused. If you don't have connections and you're worried about making them, I would say go out there every once in a while, but don't overdo it. Just don't overdo it. You don't need to. And I was overdoing it probably in the last 2 months, and I basically got to a point where I lost a little bit more of control than I should have, you know. I.e. the $2,000 or whatever. I've lost $1,500 or whatever. And it sounds like it's a small amount, but it will grow. It would have grown. So I'm gonna declare for myself to stop all this and just start getting back to it. Because, for example, when I was reading that The Wealth of Nations, the connections, my discipline of having connections was cut off 100%. I didn't go out and socialize at all because all my extra time required me to read for about 2 months. So I was talking to one guy, his name is Miguel, and you know who you are. But it was just him, and you know, I think he was like he had a feeling like that I cut myself off from society or whatever just to read that book. But well, there's that aspect, but there was also the other aspect that I was getting bad at making connections. So see, but it's weird because back then I regretted not having the ability. Now I regret having the ability because that meant it costed my control. But see, I need that because financially things are becoming more demanding, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this without buckling down and just saying no to everything else, you know, the connection part. So it's kind of funny how things work, because it's like it's even starting to come out in interactions. So basically what I mean by that is, perhaps even in this video that right now, like the last few times I've met up with someone, and like I said, maybe you don't know, but part of connections for me is dating as well. That's a discipline within itself, but it's like a sub-discipline of socializing, in my opinion. And so basically in the last few times I've been starting a little bit and sounding like I'm not really sure of myself, but in reality what's happening is that I'm just worried about the control. I'm just worried about losing control over the things that I want to do. And so I kind of worry about that, and it comes out in an awkward interaction. So in a way, it's also destroying my ability to make connections. While it should have been actually making it better, but only because of the goals that I have that require a high level of control. So now that I'm talking about it and I'm realizing this, hopefully you can understand. And I apologize for anybody who thinks that I'm trying to be their friend and, you know, and I'm just making comments on YouTube or whatever. At some point we'll collaborate. And I apologize also for someone else that I wanted to connect with. And again, at some point we'll collaborate again. But right now, at least, my connection, I have to basically cut that off, that discipline off, because of the whole control aspect. It's becoming way more demanding, and it seems like I have to get a promotion or something, or a raise. But in reality, I have everything financially is working out. It's just that I have to realize that the connection part, it costs a lot in terms of control, like i.e. there's an actual thousands of dollars of cost associated with it. So, you know, anyways, thanks for watching.